Today, as we take our final look at what does love look like, we're going to be looking in the Gospel of John, chapter 19, verses 25 through 30. Since it's Good Friday, quite appropriate, we're looking at the scenes of the cross. And this is a uh, little incident at the end of Jesus' crucifixion that John records here. He says, standing by the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus then saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing near by, he said to his mother, Woman, behold your son. And he said to the disciple, Behold your mother. From that hour the disciple took her into his own household. After this, Jesus, knowing that all things had already been accomplished, to fulfill the Scripture, said, I am thirsty. A jar full of sour wine was standing there, so they put a sponge full of sour wine upon a branch of hyssop, and brought it up to his mouth. Therefore, when Jesus had received the sour wine, he said, It is finished. And he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. Looking at this little incident with Jesus and the disciple whom he loved, uh, most people believe that was going to be John, the son of Zebedee, his apostle, the author of this uh, gospel that is being referred to here. But he looks up and he sees his mother standing there with the other women, and John standing nearby, or the apostle whom he loved standing nearby. And one of the things that's not spoken because it was understood is Jesus, as the eldest son of Joseph and Mary, had the responsibility of taking care of Mary in his home after Joseph had died. So Mary had been living in Jesus' household, had been uh, being cared for by him and his brothers, uh, mostly his brothers while he was off doing his ministry, the last part of his life there. But he wasn't going to be there. He needed someone to take over the responsibility of watching out for his widowed mother. And so he turns to John and says, She's now your mother. And he says to Mary, This is the one, your son, the one who is to be taking care of you. So he gave the care of his mother Mary to someone whom he knew and whom he loved. This title that John evidently uses for himself, the disciple whom Jesus loved, indicates, Jesus obviously loved all of his disciples. He loved all of us. But there indicates a very special or close friendship, relationship between Jesus and John that John felt a just one of those extra special connections that sometimes two people make, where we sometimes flippantly refer to best friends or best friends forever. There is a level of friendship that uh, sometimes people get to enjoy, get to meet. It's very rare, unfortunately. But Jesus and John had this level of connection, this level of friendship, and so much that Jesus was able to give the care of Mary over to John. Now, the point of all of this and what does love look like is even in the middle of doing great work, work that would bring salvation to all mankind, Jesus took care of those he had responsibility for, and he provided for them, provided for somebody to uh, watch over them, to care for them, to protect them, and take care of their physical needs when he wasn't going to be there. Many times in ministry, you'll find a case where the minister gets so wrapped up in doing this great work for God that he neglects his family. Or we can get so wrapped up in doing something that God has called us to do. It doesn't have to be, ministry and the traditional thought set of it, of where we are, uh, working somehow, being paid by church. It can be our jobs. It can be nursing, can be physicians, it can be some kind of lawyer, some kind of businessman, mechanic. Uh, but if we get so wrapped up in doing that and neglect the care for those in our lives for whom we have responsibility, we're not showing full Christ-like love. We have to care for those around us. And even in the middle of this crucifixion, he took care of his mother and took care of the responsibilities there. And it talks about in verse 30, he received the sour wine. He said, "It is finished, completed, done, accomplished. Everything has been fulfilled." And he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. Now, a point I want to make here is something John refers to or records Jesus saying earlier in his ministry. Back in John chapter 10, verses 17 and 18, he's speaking to the crowds about himself. And he says, "For this reason the Father loves me, because I lay down my life so that I may take it again. No one has taken it away from me, but I lay it down on my own initiative. I have authority to lay it down, and I have authority to take it up again. This commandment I received from my Father." The point I want to make is Jesus, being Son of God, being God, no one could take his life from him. Even there on the cross, the Romans weren't taking his life. They were the means Jesus was using for laying down his own life. He could be, if he didn't want to give up his life, doesn't matter how many crosses you nail him to, how many spears you stick in his side, he ain't dying. But because he had the authority from the Father to lay it down and to take it up again, he was laying down his life for us. And this is what we celebrate today on Good Friday, that he laid down his life willingly. The Romans didn't kill him. The Jews didn't kill him. He died on the cross and lay down his life willingly for us so that he could take it up again on the third day and live forever and give us the hope, the way to live forever with him in heaven. What does love look like? It cares for others. It denies self. It's obedient to God. And it never gives up, never fails. Now, you and I, we're trying to reach that. We're trying to grow into that. Maybe we will one of these days. But this is our goal. This is what it looks like. This is what we are trying to do when we seek to obey the greatest commandment. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your strength, with all your mind, with all your might. and love your neighbor as yourself. This is what it looks like. This is the goal we're trying to reach. This is love.